Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the presentation we are doing for the school anniversary. Our names are Alonso Dueñas, Danailia, Cristel Venegas, and me, Francesca Minchola. On this opportunity, we'll talk about the entire process that we had to follow to produce the second term's authentic task, a leaflet about a Peruvian department. A lot of things were done to carry out our project, whose objectives were to convince foreigners to visit our department. To accomplish this, we had to divide our work in three main sections: food, music, and important places. So, we are not going to lose time. Let's get started.
Well, since this class is semi-English, we are always told to follow the end of the scheme. So our whole work revolved around three particular concepts, which are the ones listed in this slide. But the important thing is not how, what are those concepts, but how are they related? So, well, we could say that our cultural identity and our different perspectives vary depending on the environment where we are raised. That's basically my personal rephrasing of the statement of inquiry. So, the next one, please. While learning and working on a leaflet, we had to answer different questions. Some of those were knowledge-based questions, which were called factual questions, and others relied also on our ability to reflect. Those were the conceptual questions, and finally we had the developable questions, whose answer depended on the person who answered them.
Now let's talk about GRASP. Our goal was basically to raise awareness and understanding of social, historical, and cultural background. Our role was to be researchers and communicators. The audience was, in general, the school community. The situation is the upcoming Independence Bicentennial, which probably will take place next year. And the product was the final leaflet, which was based on the department which we have chosen.
To understand this activity better, we should take into consideration some concepts. First of all, what is a leaflet? According to the Oxford Dictionary, a leaflet is a printed sheet of paper, sometimes folded, containing information or advertising that is usually distributed free. Moreover, there are different styles of the leaflet, which include single fold, concertina fold, cross fold, open gate fold, closed gate fold, and roll fold. This time, for our project, we're going to use concertina fold.
Now we would like to show you a video about basically what was our project about.
Our unit is My Name is Peru, but in the beginning we didn't know a lot about it. Therefore, we had to get in contact with something called project introduction, where we had to include the flag, the population, and the location of the department that we had previously chosen. The next step was completing a worksheet called Music Chart, where we had to list names some famous artists, of some popular genres and typical instruments of that place. To approach music, we did several worksheets. For instance, in the music chart, we searched for characteristics of music in our department and organized the information gathered in a chart. Then we evidenced our knowledge in a presentation for the class. Most of us did a PPT in which some typical musical features were explained. So music, instrument, singers, and dances. Finally, to conclude this topic for a while, we did a music quiz. Here we complete the information of the chart matching the dances to the department and instruments used.
Now I will talk about the food chart and food presentation. So first we did a worksheet in which we inquire about some entries, recipes, main dishes, desserts, drinks, native crops and famous chefs. And we also inquire about a recipe and its ingredients and its elaboration. So then we did the food presentations, which were basically the same, but we make it as dynamic as we could, so people will get interested in it.
Presenting about food, we did a verification where we had to write an article about our department traditions. We had to put 3 traditions and put all the up at the bottom to justify our information. We also had to do research about our department's important places. So to demonstrate we learned about them, our teacher asked us to make an infographic about them. We had to include at least 5 important places and give specific details of it. And as always, we put the APA to convince everyone that our information was verified.
The infographic was done, we started making our leaflet. This process was divided into 3 classes for 1 week to conclude the elaboration. There were so many web pages to do the leaflet, therefore some of us did it in Canva, Google Slides, or in a sheet. Having already an idea of how a leaflet is, written information was not focus of this work. Those were images and photos, therefore they fill the pages. We include information about other projects, so we were making a written explanation of the smallest possible.
During this activity, we were put in pairs, so we could correct our partner's leaflet and our partner could correct ours. The criteria for evaluation were the content and grammar and vocabulary. We both had to be honest. Not only we had to give each other feedback, but also give recommendations of how to improve our leaflet.
During this part of the reflection, we were told to summarize the whole learning process we had to go through when elaborating the leaflet. This text would be divided into 3 parts, which were the introduction, the development, and the conclusion. The first part had to be interesting and appealing. We had to state the aim of our project and maybe add a fun fact or a personal experience of ours. The second part, which by the way was the longest, had to detail how we carried out that project. For example, the research and the planification and the presentations, all of that should be included into the second part. The third part was basically the conclusion, so we had to close the text with a paragraph that could synthesize both our personal experience and the knowledge that we gained.
Now in this section, we'll include the worksheets, presentations, and final products we have developed last term for this project.
Well, as we already mentioned, this whole process was divided into 3 particular subtopics, which were music, food, and important places. I'm going to talk about the evidence in music and food, and Crystal's going to talk about the evidence in important places. So, we had the worksheet number 1, which was the music chart. We had to label the different regions of the Peruvian map depending on the department that concerned them. And we also had to fill a chart, which was basically about the Peruvian dances and typical bands and songs and genres. We also had the music presentations, which were normal presentations done in Google Slides. And finally, we had the music quiz, which was worksheet number 2, which tested our knowledge on the music presentations of our partners. Okay, now we have the food evidences. Ms. Mitchell introduced the unit with some videos about a famous Peruvian gastronomy. She showed us some chefs such as Gaston Acurio. I think the image shows him a little bit. We also had to do worksheet number 3, which was the food chart. And this was really similar to the music chart, so I'm not going to explain it. And finally, I would like to explain a lot about the food presentation because it was really different to different presentations that we've done this year in pandemic or even in previous years. Because Ms. Miccioli asked us to be as creative as possible right here. We had to present, I don't know, using physical objects or physical images, or we could change some background and so that the images there would match what we were explaining about the food of our department. And well, yeah, it was kind of fun, and I will just describe this presentation as remarkable.
Now we have the important places of our department. In this activity, we were supposed to make an infographic with 3 or 4 important places of our department. This activity was really challenging for us because we're supposed to elaborate infographics in just 1 hour, which is not that much time.
Okay, so now we are going to admire the work of our classmates. Oh, also, as the video said, we had to do a report to explain the process for making our leaflet. This is our final product. We choose all the leaflets from this group, and also we chose one which we thought is the most representative, which is from our partner called Andrea Paredes. In our opinion, this is the best one because, as you actually asked us to make it the most creative as possible, um, we think she used lots of images and also make it very beautiful.
Now let's see the metacognition.
First question is what did we learn? We carried out lots of activities last term and developed approaches learning skills. We synthesized information, represented our information visually, and learned to use more tools like Canva because most of us use our leaflet there.
My point of view, I think we learned it from doing our worksheets. Always receiving recommendations from our teacher really helped us to learn every new topic.
Firstly, I believe that leaflets are an innovative way of communicating different topics, and that's what's new for me. From my perspective, I think it was pretty easy to do the whole research process because we are used to it. And on the other hand, the way of organizing the information and combining it with different images and looking for a good leaflet template was really tough.
Fourth question is why is it important? So in my opinion, this project is important since we could learn more about this country because I consider that before of this activity, I didn't knew more like too much about what to learn, and now I consider I'm more interested in my culture, and I've learned a lot.
Here we can see the apostrophes was used.
Thank you very much.